All right, so this is a review for the test. It's going to be on Wednesday. And I told you yesterday it's just going to be over the quizzes. So I figure the best way to review is just go over the quizzes, okay? I may not go over every single one. Like on this first quiz, there's two problems. Well, there's a couple problems that are the same, that are kind of the same, like this. The distance formula, I'll do only one of the distance ones, and I'll only do one of the midpoint ones, okay? So here's the first thing. Everybody should get this right. Would you agree? Yeah, let's do it real quick, though. All right, so you got to label the points. So -3, 2. So it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, right there. Put a dot there. And it's point A, so label it with the point. Everybody got that? All right, let's do the rest. 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right there, and 0, and that's point B. And then -2, 2, -2, -2. That's C. D is 6, 5, so there's 6. Is that 5 right there? All the way to the top? Okay. What is that, D? And E is 0, -3. So you go 0 on the X and then 3 on the Y, or -3 on the Y. 1, 2, 3, right there. And that's E. And then 6, -3. So there's 6. There's -3 right there. And that would be F. Pretty simple. Okay, that's going to be on the test. Everything that I do in this review is going to be on the test. Might be different numbers. Okay, they may not be the exact points right here, but they'll be very similar to them, and you label them, and you got to make sure you label it. Put the letters next to the points, and you're good to go. Questions on that? Good. I didn't think there was. All right, so let's do this. Distance formula. So find the distance. Now look, these two problems kind of look the same, don't they? Because they give you two ordered pairs. But one asks for the distance and one asks for the midpoint. They're completely different things. So let's make sure that we understand that. So let's write down the distance formula. This is something you're going to have to memorize. If you don't have it memorized, you could sit there for the whole class period and look at that problem and not know how to do it, okay? If you have it memorized, you should be able to do this within a minute or two, all right, if you have the distance formula memorized. Do you remember what the distance formula is? Well, it's a big old what first? Big old square root, right? Big old square root. Now we put some parentheses, and what do we put in here? Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's x2 minus x1 or x1 minus x2. No, so it doesn't matter. And then what do we do with that? Square it. And then in between, plus, and then y1 minus y2, and that quantity is squared, okay? So you got to memorize that, first of all. You have no hope of getting this right. Well, maybe a little bit. You probably could graph it, I guess, and do Pythagorean theorem, but that's what this formula is, right? So which one you want to do, 2 or 3? We're only going to do one of them. Okay, so number 3. Let's do number 3. So let's put in these points into this. So I don't have a lot of room up here, but this is my x1, and this 2 is my what? y1. Okay, that's my first point. That's my second point. So this one is my x2, and this one is my y2. Basically, if you know the formula, it's just basically plugging those numbers in and just working it out and doing some math. Okay, so let's do it. Distance equals big old square root. So I'm going to put like the shell of the equation, and then we're going to stick some real numbers in here. All right, so we subtract the x's. So which ones are the x's? It's the -3 and the 6. We subtract them. It doesn't matter what order you subtract them in, because we're going to square it anyway. All right, I'll just do it in the order that it's in. So it's -3 minus 6. Now we take the y's and we subtract them. 2 minus 0. All right, equals big old square root. Don't forget that. Let's figure out what this is. -3 minus 6 is what? -9, and you are squaring it. Plus 2 minus 0 is 2, and we're going to square that. Do you understand why it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive? Because -9 squared is what? Positive 81, and then -9, did I say negative first? Whatever. Okay, 9 squared is 81 as well. All right, so what do we got? Big old square root. That's what? 81 plus 2 squared is 4. You add them up, keep them under that square root, and it's square root of 85. Is it necessary to put that in your calculator? No, it's not. In fact, I would rather you just keep it like that. It just takes more time. Now, if you're an engineer and you had to find out the distance and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you'd probably put it in a calculator. But for math class, we're just going to keep it the square root of 85. Is this simplified? It is, okay? You can't reduce it anymore. You can't simplify it. So we're good there. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? Just got to know the formula, okay? There are several formulas you have to memorize for this. So go over them and practice them. Write them down. Do some problems with them and practice. That's what part of the problem is that we just don't practice enough or prepare for it. All right, midpoint formula. Midpoint is different. It's a point. It's not a length. Like the square root of 85 comes out to what? Like 9 point something, right? Because the square root of 81 is 9. So it's 9 point something small, whatever that is. But that's a length. That's a distance. It's how long the line is from one point to the other. That's what we're finding on that one. This one, we're finding where the middle of that line is. What point is in the middle? So it's completely different. Completely different. So we have a formula for midpoint, don't we? Let's put that right there. Equals, and it's a point because it's mid what? Point. So it's a point like this. How do we find the point? Well, what do we do with the x's? Do you minus them? Nope. Yeah, add them. Yeah, it's not squared. There's no squareds in midpoint. X1 and X2. So you just take the two x's and you add them up. And then you do what to them? Why do you think you divide by 2? Because we're finding the what? The middle, right? We're finding halfway, right? That's why you divide by 2. So, think about that kind of stuff when, don't just memorize the formula and just memorize a bunch of things to put in. Try to understand what's going on. Like the distance formula. What's the distance formula? It's basically you got a line and then you're drawing an x over and a y up and down and you're doing Pythagorean theorem. That's what the distance formula is, right? We talked about that when we first went over those. But it's good to remember it in case your brain freezes a little bit and you're like, oh man, I forget what that is. But then think about what it means. So anyway, this is what we do. And which one you want to do, 4 or 5? I don't think either one of them is any more difficult. Let's do 4. So what do? We add up the x's. So I'm not going to write them down. I did that on the other one. So it's 3 plus 5 over 2, comma. And then you add up the y's. So what are the y's? It's the -4 and the 4. So it's -4 plus 4, and then you divide that by 2. Pretty simple once you know the formula, right? Yeah, absolutely, okay? This just means you take the x's and you add them up. That's an x and that's an x. We added them up, then we divided by 2. And then it says take the y's and add those up. So it's -4 plus 4. Then you divide that by 2 and see what you get. So let's see what happens. 3 plus 5 is 8 over 2. And then -4 plus 4 is 0 over 2. We don't want to write it like that. We want to simplify it. What's 8 over 2? 4. What's 0 over 2? 0. That is your midpoint. And it's a point. It's not a length, okay? It's a point. It needs to be written as an ordered pair. What do you think? We good with that? Yeah, it's not too bad. All right. Well, let's see what I can do here. Get rid of that. Let's make this a little smaller. I'll just grab all this stuff. Delete that. And take all that stuff. Delete all that. What's that? Yeah, this is the whole thing. See, I made those shapes myself and just stuck them off to the side in case I needed to talk about cylinders. I could go bang. It's right there. There's my cylinders. So now let's boom. Oops, what happened? Let's try this again. Boom, place. There we go. Isn't that fancy? And pull that up to there. Boom, put a little dot right there. Okay. So this is the second one, right? This is section 2.2. Remember, every question on the test is going to be like the ones we're going over right now. So except the numbers are different. That's it. All right. The numbers are going to be a little different. except for, what did I say, like two, I think maybe 3 problems on the whole test are the same exact numbers than that is on the quiz, okay? So, that helps or not. What's this mean? Determine which of the given points are on the graph of the equation. So here's your graph right here. You don't even have to graph it, okay? But that's your equation right there. You want to find, is this point on the graph? Is this point on the graph? Or is this point on the graph? So you have several possibilities. I mean, you could just guess, I guess, but that's probably not a good way to do this. There could only be 1 point. One of these 3 could be on the graph. Maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe none of them. All right? How in the world are we going to figure out what's on the graph? Plug it in. Exactly right. So let's take 0, 3 and plug it in. So, I don't know. Let's do this. That's a weird 0. Let's try this again. 0, 3. Let's try 0, 3. I'll put, look, a little colon mark right here. Let's see if it works. So let's put those numbers into this graph. So y squared equals x squared plus 9. So what's my y in this point right here? That's the 3, right? Because the first one's the x, the second one is the y. So it's 3. 3 squared equals x squared. What's my x? 0. You probably don't even have to put the square there. You know it's going to be 0, don't you, in the end? So let's do this. So let's see if they're equal to each other. That's what we're doing. We're not solving for x. All we're doing is seeing if these two sides are equal to each other. If they're equal to each other, then yes, it fits on this graph, okay? So that's 9 equals 0 plus 9 is 9. So is this point on this graph? Yeah, it is, okay? So that's one of ours. So I can circle that. So I know that's on the graph. Let's try another one. Let's try 3, 0. And let's see if that one's on the graph. We're going to put it into the same formula. This time the y is what? 0. And then the x this time is 3. And let's see if these two sides are equal to each other. I can tell you right off the bat, without even doing the math, that they're not equal to each other. So I'll do this, and I'll just put a no there. All right? So we're not going to circle 3, 0. You with me? Let's try one more. Let's try negative 3, 0. So negative 3, 0. Let's try that. So put in, again, it's y squared first, so it's 0 squared equals x squared, which is negative 3. Make sure you put that in parentheses. That makes a difference, okay? So it's that whole negative 3 is being squared plus 9. Actually, it wouldn't make any difference. Well, no, it would make a difference on this one, because if you made this negative 9, then it looks like it would lie on the graph, doesn't it? But it's not a negative 9. It's a what? Positive 9. So this is 9 plus 9, which is 18. Is 0 equal to 18? Of course not. It's not. So does that lie on the graph? No, it doesn't. So what's your answer? Is just that 0.03. And that's all you do, okay? But you got to do your work for all 3 of them to see if they work. We good? All right. Now, this is one of the easier x and y intercepts. Remember we did that on the last homework? And they were a little bit lengthy. These aren't quite so bad because it's not a circle, okay? It's just a straight line, and the math is a little bit easier. So we have to find the x-intercept. So to find the x-intercept, we've said this a bunch of times. We said it yesterday, too. We set what? We set the other one, which is y equal to 0, and then we work it out. So here's our little equation right there. And to find the x-intercept, we set y equal to 0. So I'm going to write this 0 equals 2x minus 4. And now we solve for x, okay? And that's going to be our x-intercept. So let's solve for x. Add a 4 to both sides. Divide by 2. So x is what? 2. Now, it is an x-intercept, and I think I gave this to you. I didn't mark off for this, and did I write on the test, write it as an ordered pair? I don't know if I did or not. But anyway, you could... I told you on the quiz you had to? Okay. So yeah, let's do that. It is a point, okay? The x-intercept. Where does it cross the x-axis? It crosses at what? 2, 0. So that's your x-intercept, okay? What about the y-intercept? So to find the y-intercept, we set what? X equal to 0. And now we solve for whatever, we solve for y. So y equals 2 times what? 0 minus 4. That's easy. Y equals, that's 0 minus 4, which is what? Negative 4. So what's my ordered pair? Remember, we said x equal to 0, so the first one is 0. And then we solve for y, so what do we get for y? We got -4. There's your x and y intercept. And yeah, and find the x-intercepts and graph the equation. All right, so number 4 is graphing the equation. You could have graphed it without the x and y intercepts, couldn't you? You could have just used this. This is the y-intercept. This is the slope. If you wanted to, you could have graphed it like that. But doing it this way, you just find these 2 points. So 2, 0. 2, 0 is right there. 0, -4. 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. And then you get a nice line, straight line, and it looks like that. And again, don't just connect the 2 dots. Make them go beyond so it looks like a line. All right, so bam, bam, there you go. There's your graph. If you look at it, it's y equals 2x minus 4. Is the y-intercept -4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, it is. Okay, and what is the slope? It's 2 over 1. 1, 2, 1. Does it hit on the line? Yeah. Go up 2, go over 1. Does it hit on the line? Yep. Up 2 over 1. You see that? So that's the slope, and so it all works out nice and pretty. Good with that? This one kind of seems like it's comes from out of the blue, but it is graphing. It's not a straight line. And I gave you the easiest one. We've done this several times before, so everybody should be getting this right here. If you wanted to, you could do this thing. But we've done it so much, you should know what this looks like. Just off the top of your head, what does that look like? Give me a word. Give me a nice big math word. Parabola, right. It should be a parabola, okay? We're going to do later on, I think, we're going to do more stuff with this parabola. We're going to move it up and down, left and right. We're going to stretch it out wider. We're going to make it skinnier. But for right now, this is just a basic everyday parabola. So if you wanted to, if you weren't sure what this looks like, you could always just plug in some points. So, I don't know, plug in -2. Oh, sorry. -1, 0, 1. What's going on there? 1, 2. All right. So you could plug those points into this. It's not too hard. If you put in -2 in for x, it's -2 squared. So the whole entire -2 is being squared. What does that give you? It's a +4, right? Put in a -1. If you square a -1, you get a +1. Put in a 0, you get a 0. Put in a 1, you get a 1. Put in a 2, you get a 4. So this should help you graph this if you weren't sure what it looked like. So let's do the origin first. 0, 0. Starts right there. And then you got a -1, 1, and you got a +1, 1. That may not be enough because it looks like it might just be a straight line. But it's not just a straight line, is it? Because if I go over 2, how far up do I go? I don't just go up 2, I go up 4 right there. And if I go over -2, I go up +4. You see that? It's not just a straight line. If I just put a straight line right here, that one's not going to connect. So it's curved. So I'll try to draw this. Almost. And then this. This little tablet thing is slippery. It's harder to do it on here than it's paper, because paper you get a little grip. But anyway, that's good enough right there. And that is your graph. Did you have to do all this stuff? Not necessarily. Okay, you could just remember what it looks like. And I'm almost positive that this is probably one of the ones that's exactly from the quiz. All right. So I'm almost positive. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty positive that you're going to have this exact thing on the quiz, or on the test. I'm sorry. We good? All right. So we only got 2 more quizzes to go, right? We can hit those tomorrow. And then Monday, I'm going to start a new lesson. All right. There's no way I'm going to take another day to review. That's just a waste. I'm going to start a new lesson on Monday. So tomorrow's my last day of review. All right. And then the test will be on Wednesday since we don't have class on Tuesday. Everybody good? Okay.